I am now going to present to you what might be the strangest One Piece theory to date. Roxy Xebec is Luffy's mom. Hello Internet, I am the blonde anime guy, and today we are going to be talking about how Xebec is related to Luffy. Now I'm sure you're thinking, there's no possible way that Roxy Xebec could be Luffy's mother, but hear me out. Oda recently has been painting a picture that every single character in this story has some kind of lineage. Just look at Luffy. He's the son of Dragon. Zoro, related to Shimotsuki Ryuma. Even Sanji is related to, of course, Vinsmoke Judge from Germa. Recently, we've been finding out that even characters we thought would be related to no one have some type of relation. If you look at one of the SBS volumes, we recently found out that Frankie is actually the son of Queen. And we found out in the most recent arc that Shanks is related to both Figurlin Garling and Figurlin Shamrock. This paints the picture that every single character in Oda's story is going to be related to someone important. Surely then, the main character will have not just an important father, but also an important mother. Now, I'm sure as you're watching this video, you're thinking about one of the most infamous theories in the One Piece community. Of course, I'm talking about the Crocodile Mom theory. This is a theory that of course states that Luffy is the son of Crocodile, but Crocodile isn't just his father, Crocodile is Luffy's mother. If you're unfamiliar, the Croco Mom theory goes like this. It states that Crocodile is actually the mother of Luffy. How could this be possible if Crocodile is of course a man? Well, we found out in Impel Down that Ivankov knows a secret of Crocodile. Specifically, Ivankov states that he knows a precious weakness of crocodiles. Now, what could this precious weakness be? We all know that Ivankov has the Horu fruit, in other words, the hormone fruit. This means that Ivankov can change anyone's hormones, or in essence, turn any male to a female or any female to a male. This means that Ivankov could have theoretically changed Crocodile's gender at some point within the story. Now, this of course would necessitate for Crocodile to have started as a woman. We only have seen Crocodile in their past a short few times. One of the earliest pictures we have of Crocodile comes from SBS Volume 63. Here, Oda shows off all the members of the Seven Warlords of the Sea as their younger selves. Oda's depiction of Crocodile actually appears very androgynous, so it's kind of up in the air whether Crocodile is shown as a girl or a boy in this picture. One of the only other times that we see Crocodile before Alabasta is during the execution of Gold D. Roger. In this scene, we only see Crocodile from the back, so yet again, it's hard to tell whether Crocodile is truly a girl or a boy. After seeing Gold D. Roger's execution, Crocodile gains his will to rule over the seas. This is where he sets out to Alabasta and tries to become its ruler. However, Crocodile ran into a problem. The theory states that because Crocodile was a woman at the time, he was unable to gain the power and authority that he needed. So, Crocodile decided to seek out some kind of method to become a man. This is where Crocodile asks Ivankov to change his gender and eventually becomes a man. This gave him the authority that he felt he needed in order to rule over an island, that being, of course, Alabasta. Now, many years have passed since this theory first came about during the Impel Down arc. Since, we've seen Crocodile rise to fame in the Cross Guild. He's a leading member of the Cross Guild, working alongside Buggy and Mihawk. Oda has given Crocodile a lot of screen time through the Cross Guild. Despite all this screen time, we have not learned any new information about the Croco Mom theory. There's nothing leading us to believe that this theory might be true. So, if Oda isn't trying to make Crocodile the mother of Luffy, who is he trying to make the mother of Luffy? Surely the answer is Roxy Xebec. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how could this possibly be? There are so many plot holes, so many inconsistencies that would rise about if Roxy Xebec truly was Luffy's mother. Well, sit down, get a snack. I'm going to show you how Roxy Xebec is Luffy's mom. Now, the first problem with this theory is that Roxy Xebec supposedly died during the God Valley incident. This, of course, happened 38 years ago. If Rox died 38 years ago and Luffy's only 19 years old, there's no way that this could line up in the timeline. However, Rox only allegedly died during God Valley. Lately, Oda has been playing very coy with his information that he's given away during the Elbaf arc. We recently found out that the Galley La pirate crew of giants was attacked and taken down by the world government. Very keen fans of One Piece realized that this Galley La crew was actually the same exact crew that we saw all the way back in Punk Hazard. If you look at the panel of the Galley La Company during Elbaf, you'll see that it's almost identical to the panel of the frozen giants in Punk Hazard. Many of their faces are exactly the same, showing us that these two images are the same exact crew. This would of course imply that after the Galley La crew was taken down by the world government, they were frozen on Punk Hazard. However, there's one major problem with this. Punk Hazard wasn't frozen until the time skip. If you recall, Punk Hazard was originally a regular island. There was no ice and no lava. The ice and lava only came when Akainu and Aokiji fought during the time skip. That means that there's no way the Galley La crew could have been placed there after they were defeated by the world government. My point is that Oda is showing us through this that not everything is initially how it seems. It's very possible that the Galley La crew survived up until the time skip and was only frozen during the time skip, during the fight of Aokiji and Akainu. This means that it's very possible that Xebec survived the God Valley incident. And during the time since the God Valley incident, he's been getting up to many different adventures. The main question would be, how is it that we haven't seen these adventures? Well, if he actually survived God Valley, it would mean that he had to stay in hiding. After all, the world government did erase not only God Valley, but Xebec from the pages of history. No one knows about God Valley, and no one is supposed to know that Xebec existed. Rox, of course, knew this. He knew that the world wasn't ready for him to exist at this point, so he had to go away into hiding. Now, if he went away into hiding, how is it that he escaped the world government for all these years? Surely he must have had to fake his death, or find some way to escape the valley without anyone knowing. How could he have possibly done this? The number one escape route on God Valley was through devil fruit. Now you might be thinking, which of the fruits did he use to escape? Did he even have a devil fruit himself? Well, my answer to that is, of course, Kuma's fruit, the Papa no Mi. We all know that Kuma can send away anyone with one slap of his Papa fruit. So, what Rox did was he sought out Kuma during the middle of the God Valley incident, and he had him send him far, far away. But escaping the island isn't the only thing that Rox had to do. He needed more of a contingency plan. If anyone saw him, they would know that Rox survived. So he needed to change his appearance as well. How could he possibly do that? Well, of course he did it through the assistance of yet another devil fruit that was on the island, the Horu no Mi. Kuma was, of course, with Ivankov during the incident, and they both claimed their devil fruits on the island. So all he had to do was seek out Kuma and Ivankov at some point after the God Valley incident. Then he could have asked Ivankov to change his appearance and change his gender into that of a woman. A change in appearance would be absolutely necessary for Rox to survive post-God Valley. He knows that he's one of the number one threats to Imu and the world government, so there's no way that he'd be walking around with his regular appearance and not expect to get attacked or captured. Now, if you're following so far, we know that Rox must have escaped God Valley, and he's changed his appearance, and he's now all alone. He doesn't have his crew anymore. We know this because, of course, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, they've all separated and gone off to make their own crews at this point in the story. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm sure that if Rox was still alive at this point in the story, he wouldn't have given up on his ambition to rule the world. Surely he's still seeking out a way to rule the world by defeating Imu and taking over the empty throne. So if Rox is still seeking to defeat Imu, how will he possibly accomplish this, especially now that he's disguised himself as a woman? Well, I think the best way to keep tabs on Imu and the state of the government is to, of course, ally himself with the revolutionaries. At this time in the timeline, the Revolutionary Army wasn't fully formed. They were still just a small group attacking the world government, and they were known as the Freedom Fighters. Rox, being friends with Ivankov at this point, would have most likely kept up with the Freedom Fighters and their state of affairs. Approximately 22 years ago, around the same time that Goldie Roger was executed and O'Hara was destroyed, the Freedom Fighters decided to mount an attack on the Sorbet Kingdom. It's highly likely that Rox would have sought out Ivankov in order to figure out what they were doing and what their plans were to eventually take down the world government, especially given the state of affairs of the world at the time. Not only was the most powerful pirate alive being executed, but also the Freedom Fighters were taking down an important kingdom. It would be around one of these times, during Rox's meetings with Ivankov, that he would of course inevitably meet Monkey D. Dragon. Dragon around this time would have been 33. Now, Dragon, of course, being a refined man, someone of elegant taste, would have wanted an elegant, older woman. It's quite possible that Rox D. Xebec was just the woman he was looking for. If we assume that Rox caught the eye of Dragon, it's very possible that the two of them would have entered into a power couple and had a child between the two of them. This would be perfect timing because Luffy was born when Dragon was about 36, and that would make Rox about 55, maybe 56, give or take. Now, if you've somehow managed to follow me through the entirety of this theory, I'm sure you're left with one major question. How could Dragon possibly fall in love with someone as ugly as Rox D. Xebec? Well, I would like to remind you that the Horo no Mi can vastly change one's appearance. Just look at Ivankov or Ivankov's commander Inazuma. Both of their appearances have drastically changed every single time they use the effects of the Horo no Mi. So it's very possible that Rox became quite the stunning, dashing, and beautiful woman when they used the Horo no Mi. The other biggest question, besides of course how Dragon could fall in love with Rox, is where would Rox be now if Rox is still alive? Well, we know for a fact that Rox told Imu he will be back one day. I'm inclined to believe him. I do think that Rox will be back. It just might not be as a man. It might instead be as a woman, specifically Luffy's mother. So if you somehow agree with me and think all of that might be true, what are the implications of that theory for the grander story? Well, I think first and foremost, it means that Luffy and Blackbeard will of course be brothers. I think that this would actually be great writing, because it would closely mirror what's going on in Elbaf right now. In the Elbaf arc, Loki and Harjuin are brothers, and they're in a brothers' quarrel. As we know, Oda likes to make things rhyme and mirror within his story, so I think this would be the perfect mirror if we find out that all this time, Blackbeard and Luffy have actually been brothers. It would make their inevitable fight not just a clash of opposites, but also a clash between two brothers, and two opposite sides of Rox. One side of Rox from when he was a man, and one side of Rox from when he was a woman. This would give the final battle of One Piece, the battle between Luffy and Blackbeard, one more layer to give it extra depth and make it extra meaningful. I think that this would be a super enticing way to wrap up Xebec's background and give a new and exciting twist that has future implications for the story of One Piece. Okay, all sarcasm aside, I hope you guys liked that video. I know it was pretty crazy and it was pretty far out there, but thank you for sticking with me and listening to me rant on about how Rox D. Xebec is actually Luffy's mother. This has been the Blind Anime Guy, signing out from my closet.